Bismillah Rahman Rahim. My Excellencies, dear guests, youth leaders, welcome to the third World Youth Summit for Peace 2021. It is a high time that we was unable to make it the conference in person. Today, I welcome the Excellency, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sayyid Muhammad Yusuf Raghilani, who is the 18th Prime Minister of Pakistan, 15th Speaker of the National Assembly of Pakistan, currently leader of the opposition in the Senate of Pakistan, and he is the President of the World Youth Summit for Peace Organization. Excellency Dr. Emmanuel Gabari, third President of Romania, founding President of Institute of Regional Cooperation and Conflict Prevention, will also join us. Her Excellency Dr. Rosalia Atagia Senaro de Cordonova, first female President of the Republic of Ecuador, former Secretary General of the Organization of Amazon Cooperation Treaty, President of the Federal Foundation. She will join us today. His Excellency Rui Dato de Barros, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, former Commissioner of the West African Economic and Monetary Union, life member of the International Human Rights Commission, will join us from Africa. Excellency Mrs. Maria Fernanda Espinosa, President of the 73rd United Nations General Assembly, the fourth woman in the 75 years of the United Nations history to be a president, former Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Defense of Ecuador. Excellency Ambassador Michael Melniar, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Sulfat Republic to the United Nations. He is joining us. Excellency Ambassador Mrs. Martizia Chen, Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative of the Costa Rica to the United Nations. She is joining us. Excellency Ambassador Malik Nadeem Abad, Secretary General of the International Human Rights Commission, International Human Rights Commission Secretary in New York, will join us. Excellency Ambassador Dr. Hassan Boussayed, IHRC Special Envoy to the United Nations Geneva, IHRC Deputy Minister of the International Affairs for Middle East and Africa, Lebanon Secretary, he will join us. Excellency Ambassador Mr. Yovas Petrus Essi, IHRC Ambassador to the Republic of Cameroon, will join us in the first session. Excellencies, welcome to all of you, and welcome along with the youth of the world. At this moment, people around the world, more than 40,000 youth, more than 200 organizations, and more than the public at large on the channels, social media channels, they are watching all of us. Today, it is a time that we have to give our solidarity to the youth of the world, to empower them. It's not that just empower them. We have the responsibility to let them to stand, grow in the difficult time of a pandemic and after the post-pandemic recovery. Your Excellencies, we feel honored to contact you in providing an opportunity to take part in this event. Your Excellency, in this summit, as I said, that you are all leaders are joining as a former and present presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, member of parliament, business and entrepreneur leaders, world-renowned artists, singers, models, and as well as the delegates around the world. The youth delegates and youth ambassadors will come together for this conference in an open forum which encourages dialogue on the post-COVID-19 development, human rights protection, efforts for peace, empowerment of our women, welfare of our children, youth development, and respect for the dignity, education, health services, countering drug trafficking, crime prevention, anti-corruption, human trafficking, prevention of the substance abuse, interfaith harmony, and justice for the all. Excellencies, today, this World Youth Summit for Peace 2021 program divided into the various pillars, tackling themes and topics of the interest of the international youth, creating a platform to express views, present ideas, and share experiences throughout its sessions. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, today the International Human Rights Commission, entering in 33 years of its struggle for the human rights, protection, efforts for peace, empowering our women, welfare of children, youth development, and respect of human dignity, education, health services, and justice for all. This third World Youth Summit for Peace 2021 is organized by the International Human Rights Commission as its flagship initiative to identify the value and dignity of the youth in the world. This conference is the think tank of the creator, makers, and supporter of the peace and human rights. Excellencies, over the past decade, there has been a growing recognition of the youth participation in economic, social, and political processes. Government, international agencies, civil societies, and private sector organizations across the world have realized that the young people are the powerful agent of a change who, if supported and empowered, can drive the achievements of the sustainable development goals. Youth all over the world throughout the history have been a revolutionary force. It is the precious assets and magnificent that can revive a nations going through a hard times. Youth educated, guided, and optimal fashions. Literally, it refers to all the human forces in a nation lying between the age group of 18 to 35 years. In spite of being tender in the age, youth always possess incredible intellect, physical strength, and wisdom because at this age, they are free from many prejudice and myopic thinking. The COVID-19 pandemic and climate change movement led by the youth given a great lesson to the whole world and international community about the failures of our present systems and our leadership. It's a time to utilize the youth power and resilience of the youth for development and just equitable world for all generations. Excellencies, racial discrimination and ethnic violence grow in complexity. Such environments become more of a challenging for the international community. As a result, now tools and techniques are required to deal with menace of racism and increasing dangers to peace. Excellencies, this conference is for dealing with such environments has the potential to among the most significant gatherings at this point to bring about the positive change in the history of mankind, as the youth has tremendous abilities to deal with the challenges which the whole mankind is faced with. This will exchange their experiences, share views, and find the path of a platform of the International Human Rights Commission, which will lead the whole world on the way to the peace and prosperity. Excellencies, with these remarks, I will I will ask the Honorable Excellency Prime Minister, former Prime Minister of Pakistan. Let me introduce the first speaker of the inaugural session. Makhdoom Sayyid Yusuf Raghilani, as I said earlier, the 18th Prime Minister of Pakistan, 15th Speaker of the National Assembly of Pakistan, Leader of the Opposition in the Senate of Pakistan today, President of the World Youth Summit for Peace Organization from 2016 to 2022, a seasoned politician descending from a political and spiritual influential family of Multan, Makhdoom Sayyid Yusuf Raghilani was born in Karachi on 9 June 1952. His father, Makhdoom Alamdar Hussain Gilani, was the former politician who played a significant role in the Pakistan movement. Prime Minister Gilani won the general election in 2008 and was elected as the Prime Minister of Pakistan on March 24, 2008 with the landslide victory and unopposed. He won the election and with the massive difference, initially the nation and the government was uncertain about his candidacy and the fortitude to lead the country globally. However, past recent years have proven his leadership, attitude, and prove his force wrong. The stature has grown as his term progressed and was able to defend the country in the time of crisis. For battling the extremism elements to the containment of a physical and economic downsides to the approval of the NFC award and the passing of the 18th Amendment with complete census is in itself an achievement of the Excellency Prime Minister. Now I would like to invite the Excellency Prime Minister, Senator Syed Muhammad Yusuf Raghilani, to present the inaugural speech of this conference. With due permission, Mr. President, the conference is open. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, fellow young people, welcome all of you virtually to this innovative and inclusive conference in the unusual time of human history during this pandemic. As the elected president of this August forum, it's my great honor to inaugurate the third World Youth Summit for Peace 2021 under the great efforts of the WYSPO and International Human Rights Commission's team. It is a pleasure to see many of you from all over the world to discuss these extremely important topics: promoting youth in peace building, climate change, peace and strengthening democracies as the change makers even in the difficult time pandemic, with showing the resilience and strong commitment of our youth to change the world with positivity and hope. 46% of the world's population is under 25. This is more than ever before in human history. The highest proportion of young people being in Africa, Latin America, and the Asia. These are the most unstable places on earth. Therefore, we have to understand that in such demographic realities, the youth holds an enormous potential for change and positive action. You are a unique resource that can develop innovative solutions for peace and development. And this applies not only to these regions, but to the entire world. When we look into today's world, I think that is something that is new. We have had conflicts among people for centuries or for millennia since the human race existed. But for the first time, there is a serious conflict between people and nature, between people and the planet. This could be absolutely destructive for the future of our communities and for the future of our societies. It's not only a question of glaciers or ice caps or corals, even if the extremely important and biodiversity is a vital question in today's world. But it is more and more about the suffering of people. And this will become worse and worse as time goes by. Lots of people are today dramatically dying and suffering because of the impacts of climate change. I believe that what the youth is doing today, what grassroots movements are doing today is absolutely essential for this to happen. I encourage you to go on. Some people say it is very dangerous, very complicated. You know, these young people, be careful. No, I'm not careful at all. I encourage you to go on. I encourage you to keep your initiative, keep your mobilization, and more to hold my generation accountable. My generation has largely failed until now to preserve both justice in the world and to preserve the planet. I have two messages for you today. My first message is that now is the time to invest in young people. Now is the time, not sometime in the future. My second message is that now is the time to promote dialogue and understanding across cultures and generations to advance human rights for all people, both young and old. I say now is the time because young people are not just the future, they are very much the present. Our world is home more than 1.8 billion people between the age of 10 to 24, and almost 9 out of 10 of them live in developing countries. This is the largest youth generation in human history, and there are many challenges facing us. Today, more than half of our all young people live in poverty and survive on less than $2 a day. And in all regions of the world, youth unemployment is unacceptably high, and many young people fall victim to exploitation and violence. Yes, the challenges are many, but they are not insurmountable. Together, we can overcome them. If we work together and redouble our efforts to guarantee that all young people have the knowledge, skills, and opportunities to reach their fullest potential. And let me say this, we will not achieve any of the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, to end extreme poverty, to reach universal education, to improve health, to advance gender equality, and create a sustainable planet unless we make these smart investments in youth and partner with young people. Investing in young people's education, health, and employment will ensure better prospects for their own lives and for their country's development. On the other hand, if we fail to make these investments now, we will further entrench poverty and ignorance for generations for generations to come. To ensure that development policies work for everyone, we must use human rights our foundation. We must promote and protect the human rights of all young people, especially the most vulnerable ones. And this is something I also want to highlight to all young women and men here. Stand up for your rights whenever and wherever you can, and stand up for the rights of others. Speak out for all your sisters and brothers around the world who are vulnerable and work and who are not fully empowered to speak for themselves. Human rights belongs to everyone. We know that young people are not a homogeneous group. There is not one solution that fits all. Therefore, countries need tailored public policies that address the situation and reality of youth, whether they are rural, urban, indigenous, male, female, living with disability, or affected by drugs or conflict. My young friends, your leadership is needed now more than ever. You are already leading the use of new technology to network, create and speak out for change. You are challenging traditional gender roles and paving the way for equity and equality, excuse me, 21st century. And your leadership is producing great results. As young people, you know that true change cannot be imposed from the outside. To be lasting, it must come from within. Through partnership and inclusive dialogue, we can agree on actions for change. For this to happen, government, United Nations, agencies, non-governmental organizations, all development actors need to enter the meaningful partnership with young people. Only through meaningful involvement and the participation can young people exercise the full citizenship. And only through meaningful dialogue across generations, we can all contribute to finding solutions to the challenges we face. Today, I call on the leaders to listen to the voices of young people, to invest in young people, and to involve young people meaningfully in all decision making that affects their lives. To conclude, some places in the world are still very unstable. The Middle East, Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, Palestine, Syria, and the Sahel, the Great Lakes, and the Horn of Africa, Venezuela. Many of you hearing today come from the regions. Let me be clear, nothing is set in stone. Human construction is a testament to this. Peace is a political decision made by actors, you, who agreed to use dialogue as weapons and the compromises as ammunition. This is the essence of this platform. United in diversity, united by universal values, our commitment to democracy, justice, and human rights. Just like you, diversity coming from the different cultures and tradition that brings our world together, just like you. Thank you for the dear fellow young people for listening me today as one of your fellow follower. You are hope of today and tomorrow. Let's build this world just equitable, fairer, prosperous, and climate friendly for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for your fruitful thoughts for the young generation. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellency Prime Minister has been very much instrumental to move the young generation in Pakistan, and he made a tremendous contribution while he was serving as a Prime Minister, and even today as a leader of opposition in the Senate Upper House of Pakistan. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your time and for your comments and remarks, for encouraging the youth of the world. Now, our second speaker and a keynote speaker will be Her Excellency Dr. Roselia Artegia Seniari. Let me introduce all of you about the Her Excellency. Born December 5, 1956. She is an educationist, lawyer, writer turned politician who served as the vice president in 1996 and becomes the country's first female head of state at the time. She was the Secretary General of the Amazon Corporation Treaty Organization until 2007 and is a member of the editorial board of Encyclopedia Britannica. She served as a member of the Nizami Ganjvi International Center, Baku, a global policy think tank composed primarily of the current and former presidents and prime ministers, and has lately contributed an article on the virus and economy to its journal. Her Excellency is also civil society candidate for the Secretary General of the United Nations, but unfortunately, she been left in the process, which has been I think wanted to change our 73rd President of the UN General Assembly, but it wasn't. So the floor is yours, Excellency, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Muhammad Sahid Amin, for the invitation to participate in this important panel. I want to express also my greetings to all the excellencies, former prime ministers, presidents, members of parliament, and others that are participating in this very important event. And I think it's so important because we are talking about young people. It is a pleasure to think about what's the role and what are the challenges for the young people in all the planet. When I compare what happens when I was a young person, young leader, I think that really the challenges are in some parts similar and in other parts are very different, because nowadays we are talking more about things about climate change. For example, the last report of the IPCC is really a red alert for the people. It is not only what's going to happen, but what we have to do. And of course, the challenge is bigger for young people because you are living this moment and you are going to face the decisions, to take the decisions in the next future, in the very next future. And in other parts, in other hands, we must talk about security. For example, what's happening on the world with all these situations that happen in different countries, not only because insecurity in between countries, but inside the countries, what is happening there. And also about unemployment. Former president of Pakistan talked a lot about this situation, what's happening with new generation. A lot of them are well prepared. They have degrees like a master's or PhD, and sometimes they cannot find a good job, a decent job. And what happens with all the people, with all the young people that are running for a career at universities? Sometimes they cannot do the career and they are not working, not studying, and that's a terrible problem for most of our countries. Especially I'm talking about what's happening in Latin America and South America, where we are living. And another big challenge is what's happening with health. We are crossing this pandemic situation with COVID-19. And I don't say we are in the post-COVID era, because we are still in this era of COVID because of the variants that are produced in different countries, and with the not enough amount of vaccines for everybody in all the parts of the world. And also what will be the future with the mutation of the virus that probably we are going to face in the next months and the next years. Vaccine demonstrated that they are very useful, but not enough. Probably we will have to have more doses or different vaccines every year, like it's happening with influenza in different parts of the world. And of course, I want to talk a little bit more about peace efforts. What's happening with peace efforts in the world? Young people is very motivated. I had the opportunity to talk with a lot of people in these replicas of United Nations meetings and general assemblies. And I had the opportunity to talk with young people, young leaders from India, from Azerbaijan, from Brazil, from Mexico, from Argentina, from Europe. And it's the same issue, what we can do to have a more peaceful world. I am part of different initiatives like the Peace Flag, like it was the Roderick emblem that was created and accepted by United Nations. And the idea is to talk about peace with as much as mass people or young people, especially as we can. And we are doing that in different schools, high schools, with teachers and others, because we are not only talking about not fighting between countries, but what is the meaning of the peace in our own life, what we can do for maintain a peaceful relationship with the others, with the classmates, with the people in the family. The COVID-19, with the isolation that we had, the families in some places, in the homes, we know for sure that there are more domestic violence, that there are experiences that are happening in the homes. In some speech a couple of years ago in Iceland, I said that probably the most risky place for a woman is her own home, and it is dramatic. It is dramatic. Most of these situations of domestic violence are happening at home. At home, most of the feminicides are happening at home, or for people that are surrounding the victims, very close family, very close friends, and that. Then we have to talk, and we must to talk about peace between relations, in between the relations at family, at homes, at societies, what's happening in our cities, big walls surrounding the homes because people feel unsafety. And of course we can analyze, and it will take a long time to analyze what's happening, why the violence is there, why the violence is here, why the violence is everywhere. And we can talk about, of course, asymmetries, not possibility to work, the situations of educations, the values, etc. But all of them goes to the same part. Education is a key issue. And we have to talk about education for young people, education for families, what we can do to maintain the peace and to provide the tools to maintain the peace in everywhere. Then peace is a big effort. And I'm absolutely sure that we have to talk more about how we can build peace, how we can provide these tools to have a more harmonious living and a more peaceful living in every part of the world. Every time that I go to a newspaper or I see news on internet or on more traditional means like radio or television, we can see that violence is everywhere, that nobody can have a safe and pacific life in any place of the world. Of course, there are places and countries and cities that are more riskful, but we cannot say that any place is safe because we don't interiorize the idea of how important is live in peace. And I am directly speaking for the young people that is attending this meeting via this Zoom connection or the Facebook Live or other social networks, how we can work on peace efforts. First, we have to make a self-analysis. What are we doing? How we are exchanging with the others. And I sometimes talk with the girls and boys, and I say, first, we have to think about words, because words is a very important tool. If we disarm the words and we put less the tone of how we are asking for something, how we are interacting with the others, with maths, with very close friends, with the family, we have to disable the weapons, the weapons that are the words. We know for sure that most of the big revolutions in the world started by words, people writing, people saying things. The power of words is so strong. Then we have to think what words we are using, what kind of words we are using. Are they bothering others? Are they instigating others to commit acts of violence? And it happens in families, and it happens when we are strongly using strong words and all the time disappointing the others and misunderstanding the others. We are contributing to not have a Pacific world. Then we must start by words. And of course, education is a good space to start, but by family is very important. The binomials between family and school is so important that we must act together. Well, after words, we have to talk about actions, what kind of actions we must have. And we can talk about a lot of actions, but of course, starting but what is surrounding us, the very close circle, the family, the school, the high school, the university, the city, because sometimes we want to change the world, but we are not paying attention about what's happening around us. Then my last thought in this important conference is to talk to the girls and boys, to the students, and to the families. Let's start for words, continue with actions, and we for sure are going to have a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President. Thank you very much for your remarks and your words. Being as an educationist, you give a very right advice to the young peoples across the world. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, third speaker of us he's also by profession educationist. His Excellency Dr. Emmanuel Constanțiu, the third President of the Romania. Professor Dr. Emmanuel Constanțiu served as the President of Romania from 1996 to 2000. During his time as a head of state, Dr. Emmanuel targeted corruption and was the advocate for human rights and the rule of law. Dr. Constanțiu is also a university professor, scientist, and a writer who was previously the president of the Bucharest University and the chairman of the National Council of Romanian Universities. rector from 1992 to 96. President Emmanuel has published 12 books and more than 60 scientific studies since 2001. President Emil has been a member of the International Board of the East-West Institute, the Institute for the Culture Diplomacy, and the International Center for Democratic Transition, among others. He received the Bachelor of Law and his Bachelor from the University of Bucharest and holds a PhD degree in geology. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to the Excellency President Emel. I think we have a problem about his I think we have a problem with the President Network, and let me invite Her Excellency Mrs. Maria Fernanda Espinosa, President of the 73rd United Nations General Assembly, former Minister of Foreign Affairs and Defense of Ecuador. Ms. Maria Espinosa is an academic, diplomat, and politician with more than 30 years of professional experience in the academy, non-governmental and international organizations, and leadership position within the government of Ecuador. She is regarded as an expert in international affairs and the United Nations, defense and security, sustainable development, the environment, climate change, gender equality, and indigenous peoples' rights. She has a vast experience in intergovernmental negotiation and is recognized as an international advocate of multilateralism and of women's rights and empowerment. She was an advisor on biodiversity and indigenous peoples policy and later regional director for South America of the International Union for the Conservation of the Nature, IUCN. Served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, Minister of Culture and Natural Heritage, and was the first female ambassador and a permanent representative of Ecuador to the United Nations in New York. She was also a permanent representative to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva. Most recently, served as the president of the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly, became the fourth woman in the history and the first from Latin America and the Caribbean to preside over the body since its foundation from 1945. Her Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador. Thank you for this kind invitation. Let me also thank Ms. Asra Khan, Vice President of the Organizing Committee, for her invitation to this World Youth Summit for Peace. I think I cannot think of a better way to commemorate International Youth Day and acknowledge the critical importance of young change makers in building forward better our world, especially in these times of crisis. Even though I'm a promoter of intergenerational dialogue, Excellencies and dear Ambassador, I would have loved to see more young thinkers and young change makers in this conference and summit today. I am absolutely a true believer in the transformative power of youth, and I believe that the involvement of youth and not only makes international politics more inclusive and more democratic, but also brings innovation, creativity, and energy, which can, of course, strengthen and advance existing efforts to promote sustainable development and build more equal and peaceful societies. I would like here to quote the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres when he said that enabling the engagement of youth in formal political mechanisms does increase the fairness of political processes by reducing democratic deficits. It contributes to better and more sustainable policies and also has symbolic importance that can further contribute to restore trust in public institutions, especially among youth, and end of quote. And I think that the words of the Secretary General are perhaps more important than ever, considering the disproportionate impacts that the COVID-19 crisis is having as we speak in young people. I think that we all agree that all economic sectors have been affected by the pandemic. Labor-intensive sectors such as, for example, wholesale and retail trade, accommodation, food services have been hit the hardest. We have to also remember that these sectors employ young people, both in the developing and the developed world. And young workers are the majority in these economic sectors. And as a consequence, according to the International Labor Organization, young people have suffered from greater levels of job loss and informality than adults because of the pandemic. And here are some numbers that speaks by themselves. While adults, the fall of employment registered 3.7% in 2020, the rate of youth employment dropped by 8.7% globally in 2020. And the numbers are higher, of course, in some countries in the global south. And of the almost 130 million young workers that exist worldwide, 3/4, 75% now work in the informal sector with lower pay, precarious working conditions, and limited or no access to social security services. So this is a scenario that is extremely challenging. And I think that as a result of all of that, about 17% of young workers live in poverty and 13% in extreme poverty. The rates of extreme working poverty and informal work status are especially high in the developing countries. And I think that one of the previous speakers mentioned the critical situation of sub-Saharan Africa, some areas of the Middle East and Southern Asia. And of course, my own region of Latin America and the Caribbean. So I think that if we take the big picture, and I agree with the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, that young and youth are diverse and they're not monolithic, but among young people, young women have been more likely to be unemployed than men. ILO figures also speak by themselves. Unemployment in young men, 11.2%, in young women, 13.9%, almost 14% of young women are unemployed. So if we speak about the right to education for young people, school and university closures and mobility restrictions due to COVID-19 are affected the access of youth to formal education and training. And this, of course, in the long run is going to have an impact in their insertion in the labor market. And here again, the digital gap between the rich and the poor, I think that the digital gap is worsening these situations by limiting access to education and training to people that are offline. And we have to remember that 50% of the world's population does not have access to internet. And this is absolutely critical also for young people. And to this bleak, I would say, landscape, we need to also add a situation of a trust deficit in public and democratic institutions. I think that the disproportionate impacts of the pandemic has had the most vulnerable social groups and young people, women, indigenous peoples, people of African descent, persons with disabilities, people living in poverty. Basically, this widening of the inequality gaps, of the transactional inequalities, it is basically deepening the existing and long-standing fracture inside and within countries. The crisis that we're living, that is, and we have to add, of course, the climate crisis, the extinction crisis, to the inequality crisis. We are seeing the rise of people, a number of people in extreme poverty. Among them, a big number of them are from the younger generations. And we are speaking about 15 million people in extreme poverty in 2020. If the stimulus packages and the recovery efforts do not tackle the most vulnerable people, we are going to see an increase in extreme poverty. And the forecast is not very telling. It speaks about an increase from 115 to 150 million people only this year. And here, I also would like to echo the ones that have advocated for the imperative need of gender equality, especially the closing the gender inequality gap among young women. So because even before the pandemic, women were more likely than men to live in extreme poverty, especially if we speak about indigenous women, women with disabilities. And of course, this has a tremendous impact in the younger generation. 47 million additional women and girls will be pushed into extreme poverty if we do not act now. And basically, when we speak about what needs to be done, what is an incredible paradox here is that we have the technology, we have the resources, we know what to do, and still we do not do it. There is a shortage in political will, in co-responsibility. I was saying paradoxically, because while large numbers of people worldwide are struggling against the effects of the pandemic, the richest men in the world have seen their fortunes increase. And I say men because for some reason, and we need to study this further, there are no women on the list of billionaires. So according to the Forbes magazine, the 10 richest men have seen their fortunes grown by $540 billion since the pandemic began. And this amount is enough to pay, we know, for a COVID-19 vaccine for everyone and to ensure that no one is impoverished by the pandemic. And here there are very interesting numbers of also coming from Oxfam regarding a temporary tax on excess profits from the 32 global corporations that have benefited the most during the pandemic. And these, we are speaking here about $104 billion only in 2020, if we were to back forward a little bit the situation. So I think that I was speaking about a trust deficit. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, in 2020, governments worldwide enjoyed only a little below 50% of popular trust, meaning that 50% of the world's population do not trust their governments. And if we look at Latin America, it's scary. 8 out of 10 citizens do not trust political parties, and they do not trust their parliaments. And that, of course, includes a lot of young people that feel disappointed of what political leaders are doing to face this multiple crisis situation. So I think that the idea that politics is in charge of transforming reality for the good of society is being challenged by the current disconnection between politics and people, or in other words, by what we call privatizing economic gains and socializing economic losses. And for that, we need young people to transform politics, to be active, to engage, as former Prime Minister Yusuf Raghilani told us at the beginning. So, but, you know, in order to revert this situation, different world leaders are calling for the need for a new social contract. We need a new global pact, a new social contract with young thinkers, change makers at the center. Recovery efforts from the pandemic is providing, in spite of the losses, in spite of the fear of the future, of the insecurity unleashed by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are also provided with what I call a historical opportunity to build back better in every way, not only rebuilding our economies, but perhaps a more wise, comprehensive reconstruction that touches all institutional scaffolds, that strengthens through democratic systems, that promotes the inclusion of the voices and agency of all, of young leaders, of thinkers, scientists, of women. These new social contracts should contain, you know, rights and responsibilities and opportunities for everyone. Citizens must become actors. Although, of course, each society, each country has specific institutional conditions and political economic models, I am convinced that it is possible to reach common agreements that favor an inclusive and sustainable recovery. And for that, we truly need an intergenerational dialogue. We need to just get our act together in ensuring that access to basic public services such as education, health, housing, security, and social protection to all segments of society are guaranteed. The role, in my opinion, of multilateralism, of an inclusive democratic multilateral system should really take seriously the notion of the public and of the commons, which they need to be resignified, a new meaning and centrality in policy choices and investment, because efficient and well-equipped public institutions are central for the provision of public goods and for the protection of our commons. So I think that in conclusion, I strongly believe that the engagement of young people in shaping this new social contract and ensuring a greener, inclusive, and fairer recovery is crucial. I think that the agency and transformative power of young people in politics, in policy design, in advocacy is critical. Intergenerational co-building is what the world needs. And we should go beyond the tokenistic participation of young people. One has just to look at the voting behavior of youth in recent elections worldwide and find out that they express young people more environmentally and socially sustainable political positions. And in this sense, the future of collective action to address our most pressing challenges, such as I already mentioned, the climate crisis, the COVID pandemic, depends perhaps more than ever on the engagement of youth in political action. And a good example of that is the transformative power of youth that we saw in 2019. This was the year when youth movements worldwide pushed climate change into the headlines. They made it part of everyday conversation and turned it into a core agenda and item at the national and international levels. Fridays for Climate, I was a witness of that, and that had an enormous and political importance. So let me only conclude by reaffirming that we need to build upon the energy, the creativity, the motivation of youth and include them in political decision-making at the local, national, and international levels in order for us, humanity, to sign a new social contract to face the current multiple crises. And of course, build a more just, sustainable, and resilient world for the future generations. I think that for young change makers, a more sustainable and peaceful world is an issue, not only a moral imperative, but an issue of self-preservation. So happy Youth International Day. Thank you for this very enriching dialogue, and back to you, dear Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I remember your address in the UN General Assembly while I was sitting over there. You made a history in the recent decades as a president of the United Nations General Assembly. Your motivation for the youth and the young generation peoples are more important, and still we all are standing for the youth to take our positions to change this world with resilience and determination. Thank you very much, Excellency. Now the floor is going to His Excellency Mr. Ruiz Artur Barros, the 19th Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Born 18 February 1960, he is a Guinea-Bissau politician who was the transitional Prime Minister of the Guinea-Bissau from May 16, 2012 to 3rd July 2014. He brings back the democracy with the power of a youth in Guinea-Bissau. As an example, before that he was a commissioner of the West African Economic and Monetary Union, and including a Minister of Economy and Finance and Minister of Civil Services and Public Administration. Prime Minister Barros is a computer scientist with various qualifications from the old Dominican University, Norfolk, Virginia, United States of America, Universidad Nova de Lisbon, and the Institute Superior Political Jose Antonio Havana. He has taken many courses in public finance and has an honorary doctorate degree from the Arts and Science Technology University of Lebanon. He's also a life member of the International Human Rights Commission and a part of the Intergovernmental Relations Council. His Excellency, Prime Minister, the floor is yours. His Excellency, Prime Minister, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank all the participants, youth people. In this, for me, is a great honor and a pleasure for me to stand here today as a keynote speaker in welcoming all of you, youth of our different nations to the World on the Summit for Peace 2021. As this summit takes place virtually via Zoom, for the first time, I want to ask all of you, the youth of all countries participating in this event, to do the maximum for the success of the summit, because I think the young people can make a difference in this world by leading the way for sustainable development goals and for peace everywhere. It is a well-known fact that the youth of any country is a great asset and considered the backbone of the future society, because it is positive roles and responsibilities involve the role of protecting the country's national interest, national security, and the ideological position. The world has changed enormously It is very different from 1950 to 2000 and today. In 1950, the total population was about 2.6 billion people. In 2015, the global population reached 7.3 billion people. At the end, the Sustainable Development Goal, the world population estimated will be 8.5 billion of people. According to the estimates from the World Bank, more than 1 billion people, or about 15% of the world's population, are in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty, previously concerned in East Asia, has shifted to the sub-Saharan Africa and the South Asia, which today accounts for 80% of the world's poor, the majority of women, to whom are women and children. We cannot admit to many youth are unable to participate fully in society, where around 175 million young people in low-income countries cannot read a full sentence, where among those aged 15 to 24, some 500 million live on less than $2 a day, and over 73 million are unemployed. Dear participants, with the invasion of Iraq, Libya, and the Syria conflicts, the emergency of Islamic State, the world today has become less safe than before. Libyan conflict has huge consequences for Africa because new generation of terrorism appear menacing directly some African countries like Tunisia, Mali, Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, etc. Certainly, there has been a growing recognition of the youth engagement in economic, social, and political process. For that, I'm sure that the youth can be an excellent leader, a great leader, which their action can inspire many other young people to dream more, learn more, and do more. Dear participants, the world is in a trouble, and nobody is denying that. The problem of human rights, poverty is there, and the gap between the poor and the rich is coming bigger every day. One of the biggest issues the youth is facing every day is the problem of peace, insecurity, terrorism, and the conflicts. For that, all of us, and mostly the youth people, must work hard and help to find the right solutions for those problems, because the world cannot wait anymore. Dear participants of the summit, the world today needs people tolerant, who can preserve certain values like a culture of peace, rejecting all kinds of violence, and solving problems through dialogue and the negotiations among individuals, groups, and the nation, and prevent conflict by uprooting their causes. In many parts of peace is a dream, children, young people, and women suffer from conflict and violence. Youth of the world, the future of the world is in your hands. And tomorrow begins today. Today, the global crisis that the world is facing is affecting mostly young people too, and we must come with solutions that will lead the world leaders to take immediate actions. Young people can play an important role in promoting the culture of the peace and the non-violence to everybody. And when empowered and given the right opportunities, youth are effective drivers of change. I thank you and the fruitful summit.
Thank you very much, Excellency Prime Minister, for your contribution always. Although your net service is not good enough, everybody knows, and the same as the President of Romania is facing the problem. Let me give a message of Honorable former Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. Jalnanath Khanal. He's a very sick, and he was having an operation, and he sent his video message for the youth. I'm going to display that message which the Prime Minister Jalnanath Khanal has sent it to us. He is a co-president of our World Youth Summit. He was here in Pakistan in the summit. So, and now it's a message of the Prime Minister.
I am remembering the International Conference of World Youth Conference 2016 in Islamabad. It was very nicely organized, very beautifully organized. So many delegations from different countries have been there. Some of them were head of state, former head of state, former prime minister were also there. So it was the beauty. They play a very important role in that conference. And similarly, now in 2019, another World Youth and Peace Conference is going to be held. So I would like to invite all the former head of state or former head of the government around the world to participate in the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Khanal is admitted in hospital. Nowadays, he is in a very critical situation. I would like to ask all of you to pray for his health and early recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, now the floor is going to be His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Michael Milnyar, Permanent Representative of the Slovak Republic to the United Nations. Prior to his appointment as a permanent representative of the Slovak Republic to the United Nations, Ambassador Michael was Slovakia's Director General for International Organization, Development Cooperation and Humanitarian Aid between 2015 to 17. From 2012 to 2015, he was the ambassador to Kenya and to the United Nations agencies in Nairobi. Ambassador Michael held several positions from 2010 until 2011, including head of the project team for security sector reform, deputy chief the cabinet in the office of a minister, and the head of the unit for the coordination of candidature and cross-cutting United Nations activities. Between 2004 and 2009, Ambassador Michael was the deputy permanent representative to the United Nations in New York and his delegation political coordinator on the Security Council for 2006 to 2007. He was also a deputy chief, the cabinet and parliamentary secretary to the minister between 2002 to 2004. Ambassador Michael holds a master's degree in teaching and a PhD in the theory of teaching foreign language from the Kamenice University in Vestovia, Slovakia. Excellency Ambassador Michael, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Khan, and sincere greetings to all distinguished guest speakers and colleagues, and especially to our youth that is participating in the event today, and happy International Youth Day. I'm joining you from Slovakia during my vacation time. So from Slovakia, I should say good afternoon rather than good morning in New York, but in your part of the world, there is already the evening. But it's exciting really to join all of us today in this important event, and I am honored to provide a brief contribution from my end as well. About 46% of the world's population is under 25, and about 26% is under 15 years of age. This is more than ever before in human history. The highest proportion of young people being in Africa and in the Middle East. And today, as we know, These are probably the most unstable regions on Earth. Therefore, we have to understand that in such realities, the youth holds an enormous potential for change and positive action. We all know why engagement of the youth and youth participation is so critical. It is not that we should see them as the generation of the future. We should first see them as the generation of today and the change makers of today. And with this in mind, we should be able to better involve them in all the processes, including within the United Nations. Also, young people have strong values. They aspire to a life of dignity for all. They are committed to peace. They can teach us many things, in fact, and this is something that we often forget about. Myself, as a former teacher, a father, and as a diplomat, I am more than committed to looking at things through a more innovative and through a more dynamic perspective. And I would like to invite you all to join me in doing the same. The youth agenda, including in the United Nations, need to be better streamlined into the everyday work of all UN agencies, funds, and programs. In fact, the UN Youth 2030 agenda, which was launched by Secretary General Guterres in September 2018, provides really a good basic framework for enhancing the participation of young people in many UN processes. But we need to do more. We need to go further, and we need to further strengthen the institutional framework for the youth that we already have throughout the UN system. We have high expectations from the upcoming Secretary General's comprehensive report entitled Our Common Agenda, and this certainly includes also the youth agenda. It needs to be, as I have mentioned, better streamlined into the everyday work of the UN agencies. And it is not up to the UN Youth Envoy only, or up to her office to somehow champion these activities, but it is really up to all of us to be more mindful and more involved. And of course, then the Office of the UN Youth Envoy has an important role to play in terms of coordination and coherence. So with this in mind, I also would like to add that we need to listen better to our young people. And in addition to creating the space, we also need to make sure that they are sitting directly at those decision-making tables, because it's not only about participating in discussions like a discussion today, but creating space and real platforms for them to be involved in the decision-making as well. Because the decisions of today will affect young people of today also in the future. This applies not only to conflict, political, social, economic issues, but in particular also to some of the most difficult challenges that we are facing, starting with climate change. And of course, other issues such as gender equality, migration, terrorism, and many others should be on that list as well. So with that in mind, I also would like to highlight at least one additional element which has to do with increasing the participation and decision-making of our young people. And it has to do with the cities and local authorities. As we have seen also during the pandemic, cities have been at the forefront of COVID-19 pandemic response. And often it is the young people that have been the drivers of change, if you will, or as I often say, the ambassadors of change, because this is exactly how I often see them as actors and as representatives of the change that is so much necessary. And this also includes the local communities, the cities. So I would like to encourage also our local government leaders, our mayors and others, to ensure that enough room is created and enough opportunities are created also on that level. It could be a major game changer and lead to achieving much better results in many areas that we have already mentioned today. And we can help through sharing lessons learned, best practices, organizing youth fora, clearinghouse events, and others. And of course, today, a lot can also be done through virtual platforms and virtual events like today. So we should all join forces. We should all work together as leaders, but also together with our young people to bring about the necessary change and to ensure that the change really transforms our planet into a better place. And with that, I turn back to you, Ambassador Khan, and I very much look forward to listening in the second half of our event to the voices and the views of our young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador, and thank you very much. Hope you will be enjoying your vacation in Slovak Republic while you are over there. Your presence is the most important for us here for the youth, because the career diplomats and who are the teachers also, we can guide the young generation very meaningfully, and they can learn from you. And obviously now it is a time for us to learn from the youth as well. So it is now a coexistence formula from the older to the young and the younger to the older. Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador. Before I am going to invite the next speaker and keynote speaker, I just want to mention here that I have 4 messages in writing. The first message is from the Excellency Gabriela Chavez Beron. She is the Honorary President of the Interparliamentary Union, Federal Deputy Chamber of the Deputies of the Mexican Congress. She said in her message, "Dear Mr. Khan and the WYSP team, I hope that this letter finds you well. Please allow me to thank you for your consideration in extending an invitation to take part as a keynote speaker in the World Youth Summit for Peace 2021. I appreciate your dedicated commitment to give a voice to the global youth by facilitating dialogues and engagement between youth and decision makers from around the world. Within the framework of the Youth Summit, we must certainly take every opportunity to encourage and support them as they become the tireless leaders that will build a better, more prosperous and peaceful world in the future. While I am honored by your invitation, I am available. My commitment are not allowing me to participate in person, but by this message, I wish you much successes in the Youth Summit's deliberation. And I also hope that it turns into a remarkable experience for all who are attending, especially for the younger delegates who will seek inspiration from this opportunity for dialogue. Just my message to them is that we stand with you. With best regard, Gabriela Chavez Beron, Honorary President of the Interparliamentary Union. The second message comes from the President of the European Union. And it is signed by Mr. Peter Hofgaard, the Vice President of the European Union, from the Office of the President, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen. Dear Vice President of the World Youth Summit, Mrs. Asra Khan, President von der Leyen would like to thank you for your letter and invitation on behalf of the World Youth Summit for Peace. Kindly inviting her as the keynote speaker to the World Summit, taking place virtually via Zoom on 12 August, or to provide a video message to the broadcast during the summit. Regrettably, the President Ursula is not available during this time. Despite the interesting topic listed for the discussion at the summit, President von der Leyen is giving a positive response to the pupils of a young generation. Particularly, heavy agenda constrained her in a current period and on the day in the question. We thank you in advance and hoping to receive the deliberation of the Youth Summit. Give my regards to the participants, especially the youth, those who are learning from each other. Thank you very much. Yours faithfully, Mr. Pierre Augard, the European Union President Office. The third message is it came from the Chief of Staff to the President of the Republic of Paulo. It says, "Dear Mr. Khan, thank you for the most gracious invitation to the President Webs. I regret to inform you that the President is not able to join the event because of his current visit to the United States of America. We have been away on duty travel to the United States and received this invitation while we are away. As such, we will not be able to engage at this time on this important matter. Please accept our sincere apologies and do inform us of future opportunities to engage with you in the future on this matter. We wish you and all the youth of the world and all the speakers and participants of this event that the very best as you engage views and discuss important topics that will help foster peace around the world. With best regard, on behalf of the President Webs, President of the Republic of Paulo." Then, the last message is the Office of the Honorable Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The former Prime Minister Gordon Brown said, "Dear Mrs. Vice President, thank you for conveying the very kind invitation to Right Honorable Gordon Brown to be a keynote speaker at the World Youth Summit for Peace 2021. Mr. Brown has asked us to convey his sincere gratitude to the International Human Rights Commission and World Youth Summit for Peace for the invitation and his very best wishes to all for the successful event. Unfortunately, due to his ongoing work as a UN Special Envoy for Global Education and his many other public services and charitable roles, both internationally and at home in the UK, his availability is already very limited and he is currently unable to take on any additional engagement. Prime Minister Brown is congratulating you on holding this important event on the International Youth Day and presenting its gratitude to all youth and the speaker and the participants for the deliberation. We will look forward. Thank you again for your invitation and we wish all summit attendees well. Kind regards, Office of the Mr. Gordon Brown and Sarah Brown, the former Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, before I move to the next part, keynote speaker, I would like to introduce her. Her Excellency Ambassador Mrs. Marzitya Chen, Deputy Permanent Representative, Costa Rica to the United Nations. Ambassador Chen is an international peace and security expert and a global feminist activist. With decades of experience as a professional speechwriter and an arms control negotiator, Ambassador Chan's platform revolves around arms control, gender and security, the rule of law, and anti-impunity reforms. Ambassador Chan served before the permanent mission of Costa Rica to the United Nations in New York 2010 and 15, where she was Costa Rican Arms Trade Treaty lead negotiator. She has also served as the permanent mission of Costa Rica to the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C., and at the Embassy of Costa Rica to the United States in Washington, D.C. In 2017, she returned to New York as a part of Costa Rican delegation to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. In 2018, Ambassador Chen went back to the Washington, D.C. as the head of the political section at the Embassy of Costa Rica. And now she is serving as the Deputy Permanent Representative of Costa Rica to the United Nations as a global advocate of women empowerment. Ambassador Chan, the floor is yours.
Happy International Youth Day, and thank you very much for this invitation. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation and the opportunity to share with you some thoughts about the special, powerful role that youth can play in sparking positive change around the world. First, we cannot take progress in democracy, human rights, international law, and the rule of law, and thus the United Nations, for granted. Your people are coming of age in an unstable world order in which populism and authoritarianism are on the rise and civil liberties are on decline, in which freedom of expression and political participation are threatened, but strong men are encouraged. We cannot forget the majority rule, xenophobia, and groupthink are the ills that the United Nations was founded to combat. As the premier international legal organization, we must stand by the UN and what the UN stands for: respect for fundamental human rights, social justice, and human dignity, the rights afforded to each and one of us. This is the UN and our delegation's obligations to the world youth. And we must not forget the youth of Myanmar and all of those who are standing up for democracy in all corners of the world. Second, we cannot continue self-sabotaging in the face of climate change. Youth around the world know this. At risk is nothing short of life on Earth. The COVID-19 pandemic made us reconsider how we conduct daily life and forced us to revisit our interactions with the nature environment. Climate change requires a major overhaul. The latest UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change forecast that a hotter, climatically extreme future is inescapable. But how hot, how extreme, how inhospitable is up to us. We need more intergovernmental cooperation and more national ambition commitments in order to effectively reduce carbon emissions. Our natural environment and resources must be recognized as global public goods and protected as such through legally binding mechanisms. Legally binding mechanisms are key to holding each other and ourselves to account at the national and international level and across the public and private realms. It is also high time to address the unfettered consumerism and special interest groups that are steering us towards extinction. Ecocide is real in policy, law, and practice. Third, the UN Women estimates that gender equality in the highest positions of power will not be reached for another 130 years. Let me say that again, 130 years. Mechanisms of inclusion such as quotas or reserved seats and targeted recruitment are important first steps to get more girls and young women in the door and to contribute to the normalization of women in political life. Addressing the problem of women inclusion must be more about than making sure that there are enough women in the room. It must be about democratizing that discourse and creating spaces that are truly capable of honoring the different roles, experiences, and contribution of women and girls beyond the mere formal representation to forging and sustaining peace. We must not bring youth to the table as commentators or just participants of our shared future, but as creators. They have the vision and the drive and the talent to help pave our way towards a safer, more inclusive and sustainable world. But let me be clear, girls are more than their suffering. They are leaders, they're champions, they are inspirators. They are here to remind us that their contributions must be recognized and truly heard. But the burden of gender equity cannot fall solely on the shoulders of girls. Social change requires team effort. For we must take a stand that the security and defense sectors do not lead to human security or defend our constituencies' well-being. Quite the opposite. The more weapons the world produces and trades, the more will escape from our hands or even our best efforts at management and control, entrenching current conflicts or rekindling new ones. More than half of the world's population is under 30, and these young people are inheriting a world with an arsenal of approximately 2 billion guns. They're also inheriting a world with 13,500 nuclear warheads. In addition, global military expenditure increased during the pandemic to 2 billion last year, an increase of 2.6% in real terms from 2019, according to CIPRI. Investing in militarization instead of health and human security is short-sighted and counterproductive, particularly when the vast majority of the world remain unvaccinated, literally fearing for their lives. A rigorous and honest reflection of priorities is necessary at the national and global level for us to make concrete steps forward post-pandemic. Indeed, in Costa Rica, we have found that our paradigm shift from militarization to investing in human security has been key to ensuring democracy, the primacy of the rule of law, and peaceful social cohesion in order to fulfill the 2030 agenda. In closing, I strongly believe in the need for our political and social leadership to get younger and more diverse. We need leadership that is more attentive to the values and aspirations of young people, present and future, and more sensitive to the unique constellations of contemporary obstacles and hurdles, whether they be from pandemics, violence, poverty, inequality, lack of opportunities, and displacement to climate change. And on that note, the United Nations should pay its interns. Previous generations, in many ways, have put young people on the back foot. It is our duty to help them. It is their turn now. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Chan. You are a really admirable advocate for women empowerment, and as well as you are an advocate for disarmament, which is putting the whole world in the dangerous situation. I mean, if I'm not wrong, if the only United States of America, which is spending more than 3 trillion in a year on the arms and ammunition, that can be, if seized, it can be go for the welfare of our people of the world. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now I have to move towards the next speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Malik Nadeem Abid, Secretary General of the International Human Rights Commission. He's joining from the New York Secretariat. Ambassador Malik is a renowned activist, diplomat, and he is serving the humanitarian basis in United States. Ambassador Malik, the floor is yours. Ambassador Malik.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, most beneficent, thank you so much, Excellency, Mr. Chairman. It feels so good and honored to be one of the keynote speakers in the Third World Youth Conference for Summit for Peace. I had been listening to so many big names, big leaders. God bless all of them. And I'm so happy to see our past Prime Minister, His Excellency, Mr. Yusuf Raghilani. Despite his big responsibilities, he's still there. Ambassador Michael, so good to see you here. And I was so happy that some of my fellow New Yorkers are here, but you told us that you're back home for vacation, but good to see you here. So many boggling in the mind-blowing information and speeches we have heard. We have done some of our own research. His Excellency Ambassador Michael mentioned 40% of the world population is under 25. What a wonderful, wonderful piece of information. Thank you so much, Excellency, for sharing this. But let's look at the comparison. We looked at the elected officials in different countries around the world. The total elected officials around the world, only 7% are under the age of 40. Only 3% are under the age of 25. What a horrible number. Honestly, it shocks me. All right, let's move on to some other numbers. We have 7 SDGs of the United Nations. Of course, indirectly, one, the quality education is related to the youth as well. There is no specific sustainable development goal for the youth to protect or to empower them. And I suggest Ambassador Michael and Ambassador Majid Chan and all my colleagues to please work on this and empower youth and add some specific empowerment of youth, sustainable development goal, not just the commission or the committee or the youth representatives. So there should be something now, Excellency, Mr. Chairman, I suggest to add 2 points in the resolution when we issue the joint communique after this conference. One of the Deputy Secretary General or the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations should be under the age of 40 to empower the future leaders of the world. I also suggest that the 77th president of UNGA should be under the age of 40. We should also consider this, and we should also promote this idea of having the president of 77th session of General Assembly under the age of 40. I can assure you, we definitely, the experience and expertise matters, but we have many of those people, young leaders who can make very good decisions as a next UNGA president. I also suggest that we, just like I think Ambassador Michael mentioned that we should work with the select and empower the youth. Yes, we should also encourage the different countries and the different cities to elect more youth into their councils, into their Congress, into their elected positions. So we're talking about youth. We did not talk about the youth of DR Congo. We did not talk about the youth of Sudan, Somaliland, Myanmar, Oh, by the way, somebody talked about Myanmar, and I think it was Ambassador Chan. What about youth of Afghanistan? And what about youth of my own home state of Kashmir? Why don't we talk about an 8-year-old young girl being raped by a mob in the Hindu mandir for 8 days? What about the right of that 8-year-old young girl who was raped for 8 days and then brutally killed? What was the fault? What was the mistake she had? Just because she was born and raised or being raised in the war zones. The United Nations Security Council promised my people, the people of Kashmir, 73 years ago, the right to self-determination. Why don't we talk about the youth being killed in the streets of Kashmir every single day? Why don't we talk about 24 resolutions that promise those youth the right to self-determination? Why don't we talk about the right to live with dignity, respect, and security and safety in state of Jammu and Kashmir? I think enough have been spoken when it comes to speeches. We speak a lot, we discuss a lot. All of us, we do little, we can do a lot. I'm going to take my responsibility, and I'm going to announce this in front of all you honorable, dignified leaders of the world, the prime ministers, the presidents, the ambassadors. I'm going to make my promise in front of you that we will provide, the International Human Rights Commission will provide the world's largest platform to the youth of the world, just like Facebook, but it will not be just we'll provide them elected official positions. We will promote them as young ambassadors. We will promote them as the deputy ambassador. And by the way, we also did a little bit more research. Out of almost 200 countries in the United Nations, not even one single ambassador is under the age of 40. Not even one single deputy ambassador, except Ambassador Chan, is under the age of 40. So why don't we give opportunity to people to empower them under the age of 40? And as a matter of fact, last week I met a young man. He's advisor to the ambassador, one of the ambassadors in United Nations. 26, 27 years old, young person. What a brilliant young person. And I'm sure he must be listening. Young man, Delwal from Spain. If he is given a chance to work as a third or fourth person in hierarchy of his country, I'm sure he will be a wonderful, wonderful addition as an ambassador or deputy ambassador in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I think this is our responsibility, that we should also give opportunity to our youth to become ambassadors or deputy ambassadors. So coming back to my pledge, we will provide the world's largest platform to the youth to interact with them, not just for social purposes, to promote education, to provide them jobs, to provide them trainings, and to build a very big, world's largest volunteer organization, where we can train them, register them, and wherever there is a natural calamity or natural disaster, our volunteers will be ready to serve any country in the world, any country, any nation in the world. And a tech company from United Kingdom, they promised us to provide us this platform. And soon, once the pandemic eases a little bit, I will be traveling to UK to have this conversation. We have also engaged some friends from United Arab Emirates who are willing to partner with us to provide this opportunity to the youth. And we need technical know-how from all of you, excellencies. We need your guidance, we need your support, we need your help. Alone, we cannot do it, but International Human Rights Commission is here to serve every single human being of the world with your guidance, with your help. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Excellencies. And it's so good to be a part of you. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Malik, Secretary General of the International Human Rights Commission, for your pledge. I fully endorse, because today the youth has to be taking a decision maker role. Ambassador Michael and Ambassador Chan, even both are the advocate to bring the youth in power. As much as the former Prime Minister, His Excellency Yusuf Raghilani, Prime Minister Barrows, both are very much. I mean, there is no doubt that when Prime Minister Barrows was the Prime Minister, he was interacting on the roads. I have personally seen this. He was interacting on the roads with the youth of Guinea-Bissau, and whatever the change is today in the Guinea-Bissau is because of his efforts towards serving the democracy in the nation. We have to bring the youth in the decision-making process, because if we are not today giving the seat they deserve, tomorrow our future will be in question. The future of our not only coming generation, the future of our older generation will be also in question. Ladies and gentlemen, moving towards the next speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Hassan Boussaid, IHS Special Envoy to the United Nations Geneva, Deputy Minister of International Affairs for the Middle East and Africa from Lebanon Secretariat. He is a seasonal diplomat, seasonal politician, and a seasonal humanitarian in Lebanon. His Excellency Ambassador Hassan Boussaid, floor is yours. Ambassador Hassan. Okay, let's move to the other. Now it is a time that we have to give a floor to the two youth in this session. The one is a male and one is a female. It is a matter of a gender parity. The floor I am giving to a very young dynamic person who is responsible of the Czech Republic mission in New York as a youth advisor. He is a campaign ambassador of the Organization of American States, and my very dear fellow of a young peoples, and upcoming leader of his own nation as well, Ambassador Daniel De Vele. The floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished young colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm working in the Slovak mission to the UN, not the Czech Republic one. But anyway.
Sorry for the mistake again. It's a Slovak Republic, and Ambassador Michael is also here, your boss. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, happy International Youth Day. And thank you for this opportunity to address you today on such a special occasion and to amplify voices of the youth, especially to Ambassador Dr. Khan. Many times all over the world, the voice of the youth has not been taken into account in big decisions of the countries. Today, we can no longer afford that and allow that. The present generation is likely to be the most prepared and passionate one in decades. It is obvious that the youth cannot achieve the necessary progress on their own. We have the strength, the energy, and good dreams. And we want to be, as Ambassador Minar said, the ambassadors of change for a better world. We need to be guided, to be encouraged, and to be empowered. Also, the 2030 agenda includes youth empowerment. In practice, it cannot be achieved only by our previous generation. We need to achieve a good combination between the experience of the veterans and the strength, the energy, and new ideas of our generation. If the youth wants to take an active part in solving local and global problems, we must be very committed, bold, and hardworking people willing to pay the price of being prepared in national and international issues or in things connected to real problems like, for instance, conflicts, wars, gender equality, etc. For example, when we talk about faith and beliefs, we must recognize that there is a great variety of religions. If we do want to live in peace, we must respect other people's beliefs by seeing other human beings in need and with struggles, ideas, and good desires of prosperity and peace. We have to cope with the global migration crisis, and we should have open arms and open hearts, because even some of our relatives have been people who have had to live in other parts of the world in order to live a normal life. We must introduce good policies to help them. For example, places to help those people to integrate in the new country. Integration is a serious problem that also concerns women refugees because of difference in culture. The only feasible way forward is to handle these issues with tolerance, patience, respect, and through dialogue. Another important issue is gender equality. One mistake that some people make is that in theory, they are looking for equality, but in practice, some of them become activists of superiority of one group or another. This needs to be avoided, again, through respect, mutual understanding, and dialogue. Today, we have a unique opportunity to do it right and achieve historical progress in building just and inclusive societies. The young generation is ready for it, without prejudice and without imposing artificial solutions, such as quotas over merit, skills, and qualifications. And last but not least, we are facing an unprecedented climate crisis today. And it has just recently been confirmed by the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, the IPCC. We need to act now without delay, and we need to do it collectively. Young people have been extremely active in raising awareness about the issue. Let's now turn into an action campaign, and let's start already the upcoming COP26 conference. Some say that it may be our last big chance to tackle the climate crisis. Indeed, it is. And maybe each of us can make a list of 5 things that we can do, including making our voices heard and letting our political leaders know that this is no time for delays or divisions. This is the time for urgent, bold, and united action. Young people are ready to be the generation of change makers. They just need to be here and be given the room for action. So in conclusion, I really think that countries should invest in young people more, as we are the present, not the future. And we need support because there is a clear impact of the youth working to have a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel, for representing the youth. Now it is a time that your counterpart. Let me invite Excellency Ambassador Roshni Betterai. She is the Secretary Department of the Foreign and International Affairs of the International Human Rights Commission. She is Secretary Coordination, World Youth Summit for Peace Organization. She is joining us from Nepal all the way. Ambassador Roshni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I want to wish everyone a happy International Youth Day. Youth, we are energetic, we are hopeful, fearless, smart, determined. We are future of the country. We are innovative and updated with all the new technologies. We are curious and we are hungry for change. This is how we make impossible things possible. As United Nations started International Youth Day, and it's celebrated from 1999. So from 1999 till date, what opportunity and what are the mainstream that youth are involved in? Still, we lag behind. Still, youth are questioned. Still, we need to provide our CV with experience of at least 4 or 5 years to get in a good position of job. If we want to be entrepreneur, we need to submit confidence letter so that we can get loan and stuff. Why? Because still our society, our world don't trust the youth. We youth, we try to bring change. We try to be creative. We try to make innovations, but we left behind. Why? Because still people think that we are not so competitive. We are young, we are still learners, and we lag behind. It's the thing that we should start from ourselves and the whole society to make people believe that we can do. Yes, we can. So from the community level, youth should be encouraged. From our houses, in the decision-making process, youth should be encouraged by the parents, by everyone, so that slowly and gradually, we all youth can lead the whole country and the world. If we don't start by now, it might be too late for our future generations. As we know, this year we have a theme of International Youth Day, and it's Transformations Food System Youth Innovation for Human Rights and Planetary Health. So this year, United Nations is encouraging on planetary health. As we all know, because of COVID, most of the youth, we work remotely, and most of us are so much discouraged and depressed that we are not able to cope up with our work and everything. So we must encourage all the youth to come forward, be innovative, start to protect the environment and work accordingly for the world, and we can serve our country and build a better nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Roshni, for your thoughts from all the way from Nepal, representing the youth of the subcontinent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am giving 2 questions and answer of this session. Before I closed with the permission of the Excellency Prime Minister, the President of the conference first session, the youth have the time to raise the question to the world leadership. Just raise hand those who need a question, to put the question to the Excellencies. There is any question from the youth to the world leaders? Yes. President of the Youth Diplomacy Forum, Musawwir Hamid Kanoli.
Yes, Excellency.
For asking question.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Dr. Shahid Amin Khan, for giving us, especially youth, this opportunity to interact with world leaders. So I was listening to all the leaders, and they discussed everything that what they want to do, and they are expecting the youth to be involved in political affairs. And one of the ambassador also said that at the below the age of 30, they are expecting the youth to be involved as an ambassador or as a deputy ambassador. So I mean, countries like Pakistan. So how we can do this? Because we do not have such opportunities. We do not have that much level of money, or in a developing countries. So how we can involve in the political processes, and how who will do this for us? I mean, for example, if someone is very competent and want to be an ambassador or deputy ambassador, so what will be the platform and what we can do to be at that stage, especially in the developing countries?
Thank you very much for your question. Excellency Prime Minister, you will respond this question.
Okay. This is a very important question. And the youth leader, as Malik Musawwar has asked this question, that how can they be accommodated in youth when there are a lot of problems in my country? I can tell Malik Saab that my own chairman of my party, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto, he is almost 31 years of his age. And he is the chairman of the biggest political party in the country. And even during my tenure, I appointed a lot of my ministers. They were youth, and even less than 35 years, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ms. Hina Rabbani Kar, she was the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. And therefore, we want to give a lot of opportunities to the youth, and they can play a very important role. And Mr. Bilawal Bhutto, he has deputed most of his ministers in Sindh, the province of Sindh, because my government is in Sindh, and they are less than 40. A lot of ministers, they are under the age of 40. Therefore, the political system should give opportunity to the youth, and my party is giving the opportunity to the youth. When I was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, there is a youth parliament in my country, and the leader of the opposition, she happens to be a female, and I invited her to the cabinet meeting to give her views as the leader of the opposition of the youth parliament to my ministers. And my ministers were shocked. Why I'm giving time to her? Her name is Mariam Raza, and she spoke on behalf of the youth parliament. Therefore, the leaders should encourage the youth to attend important occasions. And I had been taking the youth leaders from the parliament to the various countries of the world for the IPU and the CPA, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and the SARC Forum. And those youth leaders who were employees of the parliament, they were with me, and now they are having a very good positions in the country. Therefore, I said in the beginning that you must criticize us, that we are responsible for not giving you the opportunity, and the failure is of our generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question by the okay, let me assure excellencies, my suggestion to Your Excellency and to the other leaders, those who are attending this summit, please accommodate one young person as an internee into your offices, so that they can learn from you, and it will be a start. It will be an exemplary start for the others like us to follow. I think that is the most important for all of us, that we give a little space to our young generation to be a part of our policy making and our decision making. This is what I thought, that it is a most important step which we can take it on the course of empowering the youth. There is a question by Mr. Daniel Divele. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Daniel, for your question. And then Ambassador Michael also has raised hand for the question. So both you can one by one. Excellency Ambassador Michael, floor is yours for questioning.
Thanks very much, Ambassador Khan. No, I was actually applauding the idea that you have just put forward, and you have encouraged all of us to create room for internships, for interns, or other forms of involvement of young people in our offices, in our missions. And you have seen that we do that. Daniel has spoken. He comes from Spain, but he's with us at the Slovak mission since June, and he's staying until after the UN General Assembly. And we have given him opportunity to really advise us on the youth agenda, and to learn a lot on many other issues as well. But we do have other interns as well. Another intern from Slovakia, Adrian Hudec, is also connected to this very event, to this platform right now. So I'm sure we will have an opportunity to discuss it more with him and with others. Then we also do every year the so-called Youth Delegate Program. When I arrived back in 2017, we made sure that we relaunched the youth delegate program, that we have at least one youth delegate from Slovakia every year, which is a key opportunity for young people to be directly involved. And as you probably know, there is a good network of youth delegates or former youth delegates that have been able to engage on these important issues. And we need to promote and further enlarge platforms like that. Of course, one of the difficult or challenging elements is whether the internships come with additional benefits or not. If we are able to pay the young people for the good service that they provide to our offices, including in the UN. And in some cases, the internships are paid. In other cases, it's not possible. But I think we need to work together to see how to unify best some of the criteria and some of the conditions so that young people really can come and can benefit from these opportunities, and that they do not come only from the global north or from Europe, North America, but also young people from the global south or from developing countries, that they have been given such opportunities. As you had mentioned previously, I served also in Kenya and in 11 other countries of East Africa. And I have seen firsthand how challenging often it is for young people from poor communities with limited opportunities to take advantage of such things. This is the first time that I started using this label of ambassadors of change. And this is where we reached out to high schools and to colleges, and where we encouraged young people to get involved as ambassadors of change. And then we selected a group of best ones that were allowed to visit the United Nations headquarters, that were allowed to learn more about important opportunities. And of course, there is not enough time for us to say more, but some of them have achieved incredible results. So it is through stories and through experiences like that that I think we can all learn. but I'm sure there are others that others would share. Thank you, Ambassador, and best wishes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Daniel, you have a question?
No, thank you, Ambassador. It was just applauding as well. So,
Thank
but I
you
think
very
Mr. Sharad.
Thank you, Mr. Shahzad Khan. He is the president of Youth Council Pakistan. You have a question, please go ahead.
Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan. I would briefly ask the question and you'd give a suggestion to His Excellency, the former Prime Minister, Honorable Yusuf Raghilani. Basically, I belong to Islamabad, serving as the voluntarily as the President of the Youth Council Pakistan. Sir, my letter of appointment with you is on your table. You can ask your personal assistant. It's been 2 months I have sent it to you, and I would like to discuss it with you about the members of the Youth Council. We have students from different universities to connect to the Parliament, to the Senate of Pakistan with the 1 month or 2 month internship program where they can experience the Senate proceedings, the sessions, the standing committee meetings, and again, the exposure and possible. So we can connect them to the Foreign Office too in order to connect them to the international community on different platforms. So I would like you to give us some time to sit and discuss these very important issues. And I hope you will give time because as you said earlier, and I remember the Youth Parliament of that time when you formulated that, and there were used to the Youth Prime Minister and the Youth Opposition Leader and the government used to give them stipend properly. And they were very well educated and well experienced and well exposed guys of Pakistan. So I would like to request you to reshape, revive that culture of engaging youth with government authorities. For that purpose, I again request you to give us time, the Youth Council Pakistan, and we will follow the instructions, follow the tasks given by you in future, inshallah. Thank you.
Certainly, I welcome you to Islamabad in my office. You can meet along with your delegation. You can discuss with me. And previously, I was the Prime Minister. Now I'm the leader of the opposition. Because in the opposition, you don't have such chances. But at the same time, we can discuss and resolve the issues.
Thank you so much, sir. I can understand the situation, but we will do what's in your capacity.
Certainly, I'll do that. Certainly, I'll do that.
There is
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Two leaders also want to talk, raise the question. From Brazil, Maria Etria Barros. Maria, floor is yours for questioning.
Firstly, I'd like to express my gratitude for the invitation. As part of the youth, it's very important to see the problems we face being acknowledged and to be given an opportunity for our voice to be heard. We are inheriting a world full of obstacles. Climate change, wars, and poverty are only some of them. Although we face those problems every day, we often feel ignored and like we're not given the right importance. We usually feel like we need to be granted the right to speak. How do your excellencies expect to expand our voice in a way we can still keep the innocence of the youth is allowed to have, and to simultaneously fight to improve peace? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. I think the better person to respond on this question is Ambassador Chen. Ambassador Chen, would you please respond this question?
With a pleasure. I think that usually in my case, I always have female interns, and my areas of expertise is peace and international security. But my interns are not, they're working with me. We're working together, and together We take part in every single negotiation. And when I say that we need to bring people to the table, and especially women, I do that. I sit my expert next to me, and I engage her in every single process that she is, because her voice is as important as mine. Also treating that person with respect, honoring their points of view, and mutually reinforcing our concerns and the real struggle that women in international peace and security and international organizations face, because discrimination is real, and gender discrimination is real, and we live that. I also believe that women have, and young women have, the drive, the conviction, they put the work that is necessary to continue advancing in their careers. And it's my honor to have women like that working with me. Together, we have enacted change, make concrete proposals that have been reflected in resolutions and in processes at the UN. And by honoring their points of view, their education, their competence, we can make sure that this generation will have another woman giving them a hand, and that by working together, we can enact change. And this is crucial. I think that women do better when we work together, and by besting, by providing the strongest arguments, by providing insight, by convincing the others in the room with grace, insight, that our positions, our proposals have merit. So I encourage you, if you ever consider working or internship with me, you can do it even virtually. And I'll make sure that it will honor your time, your capacity, and that we'll grow together as experts and as human beings. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador. There is a last question now, and Mr. Emmanuel Gabari from Nigeria, he wants to ask the question. Mr. Emmanuel, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Emmanuel Gabari from Nigeria. I am a broadcaster and also a social worker, the executive director of African Focus for Youth Development. It's an NGO that caters to the needs of young people, women, and young girls. First of all, let me thank you, Ambassador, for having me on the program today as we celebrate International Youth Day, and I commemorate with everyone. I've been listening since the program, the summit started, and I must say we are blessed to have such a program. I'd like to first make a comment and say, let's keep pushing, let's keep being united, let's make the world a better place from the little we have. From our own stable in African Focus for Youth Development, we trained 40 youths last week on a 3-day training on COVID-19 and safety measures, you know, and I look forward to more collaborations with as many organizations that would want partnership. Lastly, my question will be to any of the speakers. What are we looking at in Africa for young people, knowing that their rights are always being violated, whether it's rights to education, whether it's rights to empowerment and economic freedom? There's always, every day we wake up in Africa and in Nigeria, it is one right violation or the other. Young people can't do cryptocurrency businesses anymore. We all know of the Twitter ban that was placed, and we know how young people benefit from all of this. Sometimes it's becoming saddening, you know, being in Africa and young people are striving hard. A lot of them don't have jobs, even when they have finished their education, And yet the little things they do to survive on their own, they are also being trampled on or stifled not to progress. It's so difficult to do business in Nigeria and in Africa. So many multiple taxes, so many stringent measures that sometimes as a young person, you just like, let me just close up and sit down. But African young people are resilient and they are hardworking. So I am asking, what is the International Human Rights Commission also doing to lend voices to young people who may not be able to speak out? The truth now is that if you speak too much, they send the security agencies to get you. So a lot of young people are being stifled and they can't talk. So what can be done? What other ways can young people express themselves that the Human Rights Commission can also look at it and find a way of doing all of that? Thank you so much. Greetings from Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Emmanuel. I am very much, the first question is with me. So hopefully Secretary General already mentioned it, that we are going to work to empower the youth. That is the most important. We will create the network of a youth around the world, especially the African youth of those who are deprived from their rights. This is the most important, that deprivation of a right of a youth should be ended in the world. No matter it is in Africa, Asia, Latin America, America, or Europe, wherever that is. It is our responsibility, and we have to get on board the youth and to make the policies and force the governments. They should follow the wishes and aspiration of the youth. We will do it. We will collaborate with the youth organizations and the youth leader movements in Africa. This is what is my take. And if I hope the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau is here. Honorable Prime Minister, if you can respond on this question, because it is your region. Honorable Prime Minister, hopefully, I think, you know, the internet facilities are very weak into the African region. I will ask the Honorable Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau to lead the youth movements over there and to work it on this aspect to preserve the rights of our peoples. Excellency Prime Minister, now it is after this question, we are moving toward the end of the first session. After 5 minutes, we will resume the second session, which will be dedicated to the youth, those who are participating in it. With your permission, Mr. President, can I end the first session of the summit? Sir, you can unmute yourself, sir. Sir, you can unmute. Sir, unmute yourself, sir. Yes, I think you are mute.
Yes. Yes, Excellency.
Your Excellency, with your permission, I have to close the session. And then after 5 minutes, we will meet again with the youth of our world for the second session. With your permission, because you are a president of the conference, I want to get a permission to end this session, the first session of the third World Youth Summit for Peace 2021, with your kind remarks.
Excellency, Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan, I want to congratulate you on the Youth International Day. You held a very successful international conference on youth, and I compliment the speakers and the former prime ministers, former presidents, educationists, and ambassadors. And the youth, of course, they participated. I thank you very much for the successful of the first session. I wish you well for the other sessions as well.
Thank you very much, Excellency Prime Minister. Now, the second session will be resumed after 5 minutes. And for that time, we are moving towards the pausing this